Being a student of philosophy, I have always wanted to see real-life application of philosophical thought. When I came across the term philosophical counseling and its process, I was immediately drawn towards it and decided to explore it. I feel privileged to now start my research work on topic related to philosophical counseling. I'm a beginner in the field and joining this conference to learn more about it. The title of my paper is Empowering Modern Lives, Philosophical Counseling through Tools Derived from Bhagavad-Gita with special reference to Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. As the paper has already been shared due to limited timing, I am going to touch upon key areas of this paper. Philosophical counseling uses philosophy, its theories, and ways of critical thinking to help counseling addresses ordinary problems of living. Such problems will include midlife crisis, loss, career changes, moral problems, work-related stress, and a host of other common human life challenges. Often these problems can be addressed philosophically by helping the counselor to examine and recesses his or her reasoning about such matters. People who have read the Bhagavad-Gita would agree that the holy book is not just about religion, but tells us how to handle the stress and thoughts of life. The setting for the Bhagavad-Gita is on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in Mahabharata, where Arjuna is confused and Krishna becomes his mentor. It begins with dilemma, confusion, and question about life. Krishna guides Arjuna and empowers him to make his own decisions. This dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita discusses various real-life problems, and its insights are very relevant in modern time as well. This chapter of Dhyana Yoga in Bhagavad-Gita primarily talks about mind-empowering tools such as Ashtanga Yoga and the art of meditation. One can befriend his/her mind with the help of yoga and the art of meditation. By adopting Dhyana Yoga, a person can feel connected to oneself, and practice of yoga makes one's body and mind stronger. One can learn to reject fears and worries, and mind becomes enlightened and strong enough to face the world. This paper intends to understand the teaching from the chapter 6 Dhyana Yoga of the Bhagavad Gita and the derived tools for application in the process of philosophical counseling. As this point has been elaborately discussed throughout the conference, I am moving on the next point. Ancient Indian philosophers have always observed human nature and subjects like perception, cognition, consciousness, motivation, emotions, etc. These are considered in the domain of psychology. In Indian tradition, many great thinkers, philosophers have studied this concept under the umbrella of Darshana for the past 5,000 years. The model of philosophical counseling available at present are developed and imported from the Western literature. There are many kinds of philosophical counseling theories and methods provided by different philosophical counselors. These counselors have philosophical and psychological background, uses of modern and Western perspective about mental health and therapy is not completely acceptable in philosophical counseling. The philosophical counseling can be accepted as complete if therapeutic aspect of Indian philosophy is applied. Because the Indian culture and philosophy has been unique in its fostering of independence and growth the people, Indian philosophy has this strong impact of Vedas, Upanishad, Bhagavad-Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and 9 schools of both Astika and Nastika. Indian philosophy shares a framework and belief that human has enormous potential hidden in its being. Ancient Indian philosophy also has an endless array of techniques to raise human consciousness. In India, from ancient times, for almost all kinds of problems, people used to take advice and counseling from spiritual masters. Spiritual masters have been playing the role of counselors and psychotherapists using philosophical principles to counsel the people. Hence, most traditional and modern thinkers strongly suggest considering the Indian scriptures such as Mahabharata, Ramayana, Yoga Sutra, Panchatantra stories, Jataka stories, etc. In the counseling process, many great personalities and psychologists suggest that among all the Indian scriptures, Bhagavad-Gita is a scripture of psychological counseling and can be used as a counseling module since it is in the form of dialogue. The underlying philosophical elements of Bhagavad-Gita has a message for the world today. Mankind, with all its material glory and scientific advancement, today is experiencing a void inwardly, mutual distress, doubt, disbelief, and sense of loneliness has resulted in loss of mental peace and equipoise, leading to an increasing number of suicide, rapes, divorces, drug habits, overindulgence in sex, and even militant violence. Moral education imparted in the society is not sufficient to address these issues, and many at times unable to reach masses unless self-realization and self-awareness is attained. These delinquencies will prevail. Philosophical counseling has an important role to play here to take on these challenges among different perspectives of Indian philosophy. The philosophical essence of Bhagavad Gita can be effectively administered in the process of philosophical counseling, which has potential to mitigate the delinquent acts in society. In the present society, people are living stress-ridden lives, be it stress arising from occupation, career, relationship, or finance. Thus, they are suffering from psychosomatic problem because of increasing stressors in life. With the advancement of psychological treatment and planning, we have many therapies such as psychotherapy, behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, etc. But our ancient scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita describes our human day-to-day worries and how a man should tackle day-to-day problems. The Bhagavad Gita is a key to all worries and anxieties, which has spoken by Lord Krishna in the battle of Kurukshetra Mahabharata. It shows practical and real-life application of ways to cope with day-to-day stressors human face in their day-to-day life. Dhyana Yoga is popularly known as Ashtanga Yoga or Eightfold Mystic Perfection, which is popularized by the says Patanjali. It is referred in the Bhagavad Gita as the yoga of meditation. It trains one to keep the mind off the unnecessary things and concentrate on what needs to be done. Dhyana Yoga enables one to find the truth. It helps one to separate illusion from reality and see things for what they are. Deep concentration leads to self-knowledge, which provides the answers one seeks. The practice of Dhyana Yoga brings a sense of calm harmony to the mind. Hence, can be practiced by the one who are restless, irritable, or visiting in nature. With better control over the mind, it helps to keep anger in control, keeps negative thought away, increase confidence level, better memory, helps to control bad dreams, etc. On a spiritual level, the practice of Dhyana Yoga helps people to build self-awareness, seeking for answers, going inward intuition, insight, etc. Dhyana Yoga has a deep impact on controlling the stress levels in the body. Hence, it is practiced to keep anxiety and depression in control. Our ways of thinking influence our ways of feeling, desiring, choosing, acting, creating, relating, and being in the world. But most of the time, we don't even notice our patterns of thinking. They run in autopilot and fueled by old habits and operating assumptions. If we could slow down and reflect on our ways of thinking, we might better understand our orientation on the world and have a chance to ask questions about it. Find out how it serves us and how it trips us up at times. If we could examine our ways of thinking, we might cultivate greater clarity, coherence, breadth, and depth in our worldview. This worldview can have a big impact on our future actions, reactions, and general experience of life. If we can learn how to apply a worldview that we have developed carefully and reflectively to our actions in a deliberate way, we can live with a much greater sense of empowerment and authenticity. A regular practice of self-examination and deliberate action, the cornerstone of a philosophical life and the very everything we pursue together in philosophical counseling has the power to increase our sense of understanding, meaning, purpose, freedom, and fulfillment in our lives. It also has the power to transform many of the emotional culprits that cause us suffering: fear, greed, anguish, anger, sadness, excessive attachment, jealousy, resentment, and guilt. Philosophical counseling is thus a process that is educative, empowering, and therapeutic in the process of self-investigation. In the process of philosophical counseling, learning from Dhyana Yoga can be applied effectively to assist counselee to find answers they are seeking and empower one to live a better life. Now come to the point: tools derived from Dhyana Yoga of Bhagavad-Gita for philosophical counseling. A philosophical counselor works collaboratively with their client to solve life problems by activating and cultivating the powers a client already possesses: critical thinking, imagination, empathy, desire, self-discipline, and creativity. A philosophical counselor acts as a navigation partner on the client's own journey to gain awareness, find direction, create solution, and develop a fulfilling life. As like in the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna what to think or what to do, but instead asks questions, uses tools of critical examination, offers fresh perspective, draws connections, and gives encouragement and listens the dialogue between Arjuna and listens carefully to Arjuna and understands his problem and his operating worldview. In this process, the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna touched upon key issues of human life and critical situations and brought out solutions for them which are yet relevant in the 21st century. The teaching of Dhyana Yoga, chapter 6 of Bhagavad-Gita, has many takeaways for philosophical counseling process. The most highlighted part of the chapter, which are very relevant in present times and before take the philosophical counseling and can directly be applied in philosophical counseling process, are discussed here under. First one is be friend of mine. Second one is Ashtanga Yoga, and third one is the concept of happiness. Be friend of mine in the above first translate as which I mentioned in the PPT as elevate yourself to the power of your mind and not degrade yourself. For the mind can be the friend and also the enemy of the self. Lord Krishna talks here about mind being a friend or an enemy to one. By practicing yoga and meditation, one can befriend mind and it empowers an individual to do what he or she wants to do. But if one doesn't deal with the mind rightly, it will become enemy and lead to one's downfall. We are responsible for our own elevation and debasement. In a philosophical counseling process, counselor helps client to improve self-awareness, identify the client's implicit truths and values and make them explicit. Put the client in a position to clarify and critically examine the fundamental principles that have been guiding their lives. A counselor can effectively be helped by applying the learning from chapter of Dhyana Yoga in the beginning of a philosophical counseling process. Second one is Ashtanga Yoga. Lord Krishna talks about Ashtanga Yoga, Eightfold Path, in the chapter 6 of Bhagavad-Gita. The following are the limbs of Eightfold Yoga: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Yoga in daily life is a system of practice consisting of 8 levels of development in the areas of physical, mental, social, and spiritual health. When the body is physically healthy, the mind is clear, focused, and stress is under control. This gives the space to connect with loved ones and maintain socially healthy relationship. A healthy person is able to be in touch with inner self, with others, and his/her surroundings on a much deeper level, which adds to spiritual health. To live in harmony with oneself and the environment is the voice of every human being. However, in modern times, greater physical and emotional demands are constantly placed upon many areas of life. The result, more and more people suffer from physical and mental tension such as stress, anxiety, insomnia, and there is an imbalance in physical activity and proper exercise. In their respect, the methods and techniques of Papori Yoga comprehensively offers an aid to help oneself. In philosophical counseling process, application of the ancient tool of Papori Yoga enables a counselor to guide a counselee to conduct an inquiry into their own life, to develop their own coherent, empowering, and fulfilling philosophy of life and to live it. The third one is the concept of happiness. In the verse 2 of chapter 6 and verse 4 discusses the true meaning of happiness, which may be an important tool for philosophical counseling. The discourse of Bhagavad-Gita leads to answers on key questions on the concept of happiness. Necessarily, the ultimate goal of life for a human being is attaining infinite happiness of mind, constantly seeks for the sources of happiness. Whenever one gets a desired object, becomes happy, may it be a thing, being, or a situation, and thus mind concludes that the desired object is the source of happiness, and throughout life, one seeks to achieve the desired object. Achieving a desired object within the mind, and one becomes happy as long as one feels that his or her happiness is connected to worldly object. Mind is disturbed. A quiet mind is the real source of happiness and not the object itself. Happiness never comes from external sources, but it is inherent. The one who seeks happiness must look inward, and understanding the concept of happiness is necessary for one who is looking for philosophical guidance. A philosophical counselor critically examines clients' more truth and values and helps them to analyze the reasons and evidence that supports their beliefs, discover the strength and weakness, as well as the benefits and challenges of their ways of thinking, and compare them with alternative perspectives. A counselor can rightly apply this tool derived from the chapter 6 of Bhagavad-Gita to help a client realize the concept of happiness. Our world is currently adversely affected by the pandemic and other catastrophes like floods, famines, threats of war, along with prevalent global problems like climate change, overpopulation, hunger, poverty, water shortage, etc. In all seems so very hard to navigate. Everyone is searching new ways to cope with these problems. However, anyone and everyone you come across is loaded with too many questions, but few have answers, if at all. The human mind is very powerful, and more often than not, we can train it to adopt and overcome the worst of situations with practice and regular effort so as to work better, think better, live better, and help people around us. Many of us are very clear when we begin, but midway we lose focus due to conflicting emotions. We are influenced by attachment, more anger, growth, and regret show. This makes us weak and drive us into taking wrong actions. They suppress our rational thought process, and then we justify the wrongs. We do not get what we think we want. Almost everyone in the modern day and age are attached to the material world, and it naturally happens to all. Most of our problems come from wrong thinking due to ignorance, and they can be solved easily by applying teachings of Lord Krishna imparted through Bhagavad-Gita to our daily life. This chapter 6 of Bhagavad-Gita, Dhyana Yoga, guides one to befriend the mind, take control over his mind, one's physical, mental, spiritual aspect, and understand the true sense of happiness. It answers various questions about life, solves riddles of life. It encourages one to positively look into life and restructure it on the basis of principles of Dhyana Yoga. For a seeker, it has one-stop solution, and for a guide, it is a manual book. A philosophical counselor in general deals with perplexities and struggles central to one human condition. The tools derived from the chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita can effectively serve the purpose of a philosophical counselor in the process of guiding the client. I Thank you, everyone. And I thank the organizers and all the stockholders of ICPC 2022 for allowing me to present these papers and a part of this great initiative.